Unreal. You know, you've got the FBI, you've got Idaho, you've got Arizona all meeting. Remember, they had to arrest her down in Hawaii. Let's bring in our think tank tonight to try to figure this all out. We've got with us tonight former federal prosecutor, president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers, Neama Rahmani is with us, criminal defense attorney, Lara Yeretsian with us, and criminal defense attorney Kyla Coleman. Great to have you all here. Neama, have you ever seen a case or heard of a case like this before?
Absolutely not. I've never heard of a case where there's so many murders in so many different jurisdictions, none of which have any explanation whatsoever. I think law enforcement has their hands full with Lori and her family and all these unexplained deaths, and most tragically, those two missing children.
Absolutely. You know, that's job one, figure out what happened to these two kids, but we've got 3 dead bodies as well. Kyla, we look at this, and one of the things that was pointed out in the piece that we just watched is that Lori Vallow's brother shot her husband. Lori Vallow's brother was seen perhaps connected to the death of her new husband's late wife. And he's also dead the day her body's exhumed. I mean, this is insanity.
It really is. I have never seen anything like this. And then also on top of that, we have 2 missing children and we have no idea where their bodies are. I wouldn't be surprised if Alex, the brother, had some hand in those 2 children disappearing as well. But this is a very, very weird case.
Lara, where do you think the answers come from? Do you think Lori Vallow Daybell, locked up, will perhaps say something? Will one of her relatives say something? Will one of the followers of Chad Daybell maybe say something?
I guess the one who would have the most pressure on her would be Lori herself, who's currently locked up. After a while, and knowing what she could be facing, years behind bars, she might finally break and talk. It doesn't seem like relatives, obviously the brother is also dead. It doesn't seem like some of the other relatives know much, or I don't see Chad speaking at this point. I would think the one person who would probably talk the first would be Lori.
Naima, you're a former
if she does.
Sure. Naima, you're a former federal prosecutor. So, and the feds have a piece of this. They're in on this. How much will that help the case? And do you think they're the ones who have to solve this? They're the ones who have to prosecute this? Or will it be up to the individual state agencies wherever these deaths occurred or these disappearances took place?
Well, Vinny, obviously I'm biased, and I have a bias in favor of federal law enforcement. Many of those agents, they're attorneys, they have graduate degrees, and frankly, they're just used to investigating difficult, more complex cases like this. This is a case where the locals really have no answers, and I'm glad that federal agents are involved. Frankly, ultimately, I hope the U.S. Attorney's Office gets involved, because these kids have been missing for months. It's September, and they're likely dead, and we really have no answers.
Kyla, the other part of this is, you've got Lori Daybell's husband dies. They say it's self-defense. Her brother did it, and admits that he shot and killed Lori Daybell's late husband, but it's ruled self-defense. Then Chad Daybell's wife dies. It's natural causes. Do you think too much happened too soon before investigators could connect all these dots?
I believe so, because you have people that are dying left and right, and they want to get to them before something happens to these children. The one thing that I'm concerned about, though, is this cult. I don't have a lot of information on it, and apparently the cult, the world is supposed to end July 2020, so hopefully they are able to resolve this case before July 2020 and get justice for these children.
Yeah, that's the big day. Lara, I don't know if you know, Lara, but it's July of 2020 is when, I guess it's the second coming, and you will have 144,000 survivors, and our leaders will be Lori and Chad, just so you know. But
Pretty bizarre world.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
What does that do, though? How does that impact the investigation? How does that impact this case in trying to get information about where these kids are if you have 2 people who believe all of this, 2 people who you've got Lori who's smiling in court. These people are convinced that the end of the world is coming in July. So I don't know how you get them to say anything.
And they may never say a word because clearly they're not in their right minds. Anyone who says that it's going to be doomsday and suddenly their kids disappear and several people around them are either clearly being killed, you know that you can't really rely on them, especially with the so-called doomsday coming up very soon. It's going to be up to the law enforcement agencies and not just the feds. It's a collaborative work in process here. They all have to work together to find these kids, to figure out what's going on here, and put the right people behind bars.
Neama, do you think there's any chance that Lori Daybell, I'm calling her Daybell, she's had 5 different last names, is there a chance that she believes doomsday is coming, she took the children, and to protect them, put them in a place where she believes they will be safe when the doomsday comes, to protect them, and is not speaking because she's actually looking out in their best interest? Is that a possibility here?
Vinny, anything's possible, but that's unlikely. This isn't a mother that cares about her kids. When she's approached by law enforcement, she initially lies and tells them that her children are safely staying with relatives in Arizona. Not the case. The next day, when officers come back with a search warrant, she takes off and she has to be arrested in Hawaii. So, does she believe that the end of the world is coming? Possibly. But is she acting to protect her children? Absolutely not.
Lara, all she has to do is just talk. If she just talks, this ends. It all ends. Just tell us where your kids are, and if they're safe, it shouldn't be a problem, right? I mean, it's not too much to presume that these children are in danger because she is not speaking. She is allowing herself to be locked up through her own silence.
But it's also what that may mean is that maybe the kids are already hurt, maybe the kids are already killed, and speaking is actually worse for her. And that's why I agree that what we have here is not necessarily a mother who's protecting her children. A mother who was protecting her children, by now, someone, one of the agents, some kind of a psychologist, someone would have been able to get through to her to get her to talk. I don't think that's what it is. We're dealing with some foul play here. And unfortunately, I feel that possibly these kids are already dead.
Kyla, do you think investigators getting together in Utah now can put this together and get us to a point where perhaps we either figure out where the children are or start indicting people for murder?
I really hope that they're able to put this together, but I have a different theory. So if Lori and Chad are allegedly the head of this cult and they believe that they're people that are head of the apocalypse, I really believe that they might have the 2 children somewhere in a bunker or somewhere with those cult members who are part of those 144 that might be saved. I really think that's what's going on here. So in an effort to wait until July 2020, they're just trying to keep their mind closed so that investigators can't find them. Lori might actually believe that she's acting in the best interest of these children, according to her religious belief.
All right, when we come back, Lori Vallow Daybell was in court last week, scheduled to be in court next week. We have some big developments in that part of the story when we come back. All right, Lori Vallow Daybell was in court last week. One of the big issues was bond, and it was $5 million when she was down off the mainland, down in Hawaii. She came back to the mainland in Idaho, and the judge reduced it. Take a look.
Based upon the argument that I've heard here today, the court is going to reduce bail. I'm going to reduce bail to the amount of $1 million. I recognize all of the factors that have been looked at here. One specific thing that the court notes in setting such a high bail amount is that there is a pending court order, and to my knowledge, there has been nothing set forth regarding obedience to that court order pertaining to lining the court out with information on where the 2 children are at the Department of Health and Welfare or at the Rexburg Police Department. So with that, bail will be set at $1 million. If bail is posted, there will also be the following conditions that are ordered. Number 1, there will need to be a waiver of extradition signed from any and all jurisdictions to be brought back here before the court. Number 2, I'm going to require that Ms. Daybell not leave Bonneville, Jefferson, Madison, and Fremont counties. If she were to leave any of those counties while this case is pending without permission or authorization from the court, that would be a violation of the terms of bond and release. I'm also going to order that there be an ankle monitor that is placed on the defendant. That will need to be all lined out before she's eligible to bail out. It will be monitoring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as to where the defendant is. And then lastly, I'm going to order as a term of any release or bail that the defendant appear for all court appearances, that she maintain contact with her counsel, and that she abide by all the laws of this state, this country, this county, and this city. Mr. Wood, do you have any questions about my ruling regarding the reduction of that bail?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Elcox.
Just briefly, Your Honor, does the court have a specific form for the waiver of extradition you would like us to use?
I think the jail has one. Does the jail have a form that they have? If you'll communicate with the jail, I think they do have a form. If not, why don't you submit the one after you've gotten approval from Mr. Wood? You can submit that after she signed it, and the court will review to make sure it meets my satisfaction.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so apparently after it was dropped down to $1 million, everyone was thinking, okay, she's going to make bond because, you know, her and Chad, they've got some money. I think he's got a house. They've got life insurance policies that I think they may have cashed out on as well. So the question is, why is she not out? And is it difficult to get a bondsman in a case like this? Let's bring back in our think tank. Kyla, what do you think? Are you surprised that she hasn't been able to find some bondsman to get her out?
Yeah, honestly, I'm actually surprised at that. I mean, they could probably put together like policies for her former husband and for Chad's former wife that could probably meet $1 million for bail. But if I was a bail bondsman, I probably wouldn't take a chance on it, especially if they had already gone to a different state before this case started.
Neama, you know, one of the things that's taking place in court was, hey, you got to wear an ankle monitor. Hey, you've got to give up your passport. Hey, you've got to waive extradition to wherever we catch you when we track you down if you try to take off. Do you think she's an actual flight risk if she gets out?
Absolutely. I mean, when the judge is setting bail in a case like this, he's looking at risk of flight, or she, danger to the community, obeyance of court orders, and you're talking to someone that's failed all three, right? She's left the jurisdiction, she's a danger to her kids and those around her, and she's failed to obey orders to answer about the whereabouts of her kids. So, you know, I would be concerned if I were the court, and if I were a bondsman, I would have hesitation as well, absolutely.
Lara, one of the big issues over all this as well, that one of the reactions I've gotten from folks on social media, they're all saying, well, can't the judge just lock her up until she answers the question, where are your kids?
Well, I mean, she's entitled to bail. And that's exactly what the judge has done. Not only is she entitled to bail, clearly the judge reduced it from the $5 million to the $1 million. She's not here. She doesn't have charges of capital murder here. It's just abandonment of her children. They're felony charges. The idea that she won't be entitled to any bail is not acceptable. Like I said, she's entitled to it. Now, the fact that she hasn't obeyed the court order obviously is the crux of this entire case. Where are the kids? And whether in or out, I don't think it's going to make a difference at this point.
Now, can't the judge just, and this is what people keep asking me, they're saying, can't the judge just keep her locked up until she answers the question?
Well, she has a Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. She's choosing not to answer those questions, probably on the advice of her counsel. So the judge can't compel her in a criminal case to give statements that are going to incriminate herself. This isn't a civil case. So the answer is no. She has no obligation to answer those questions, and the judge can't make her.
All right, another big development. We're supposed to have the preliminary hearing next week, and both sides are asking the court for a new date. they gave the judge a stipulation to continue, where both the prosecution and defense say they need more time to exchange and review discovery in this case, and they actually want it put off until May 7th and 8th. So they want a couple months to try to figure things out here. Kylie, the only reason I'm a little surprised by this is that means she's going to be locked up for a couple months, I think, or at least a couple more months, because that's going to be an opportunity for them to say there isn't probable cause here.
Right. But I mean, I think the state is trying to get a little bit more time, get more information so that they can present a better case to the judge. But I just don't know. I feel like if you have a couple more months, children have not been found. That's 4 months. You're not able to locate where they are. That's what really scares me. They've already been missing.
Lara, what are your thoughts here? Do you think that when they get back into court, things are going to change? That, you know, all right, 2 months, we've seen each other's information, and now maybe we're ready to talk?
Are we talking about will Lori be ready to finally give the information? Not necessarily. I think, to me, it seems like Lori is not going to talk. It's going to be really difficult to get her to talk. Maybe we get closer to her goal, which is that July date. May is pretty close to that. It's only a couple of months away. She's probably ready for spending a few months in custody. That all it does, though, it gives the prosecution and law enforcement agencies time to continue investigating and hopefully finding these children.
Another development inside the courtroom is that the defense apparently not happy with the judge. So they filed a motion for disqualification pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 25. Comes now defendant by and through her attorney of record, Mark L. Means, and moves this magistrate judge Edens be disqualified for without cause pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 25 in the above entitled matter. Okay, Neama, they don't like the judge? I mean, what sort of strategic move at this point? What would it accomplish for the defense to switch judges?
Well, look, some states allow you to strike a judge for no reason at all. You can't do it in federal court, but other jurisdictions you can. So if the defense thinks that for some reason this particular judge, this magistrate has a bias against their client, that's absolutely what they're going to do. Otherwise, they're not going to have any chance of the preliminary hearing, much less trial. So it's not unexpected in these types of cases.
Sounds to me like they're looking for lower bail, but that's just my guess here. All right, when we come back, the latest in the dating app murder trial. One of the 4 defendants, Haley Bustos, the young woman who went out on the date with Adam Hilaire, the victim, just before he got shot in the head. The woman who set it all up, well, she's testifying for the prosecution. Her testimony when we return.
His testimony didn't register with me, really.
The people called Detective Mark Furman.
I just always felt that there was something strange about him.
On the next episode of OJ 25.
F. Lee Bailey destroyed Mark Furman.
The defense's strategy, it doesn't disprove guilt.
They thought I should have softened it up a bit. That ain't the way the game is played.
An all-new original true crime series, OJ 25. New episode tonight at 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
Proffer with the understanding that there is no plea deal in place between the state and you at the time of this agreement, right?
Yes.
But that paragraph of the agreement goes on and says a lot more, and I'm going to read it to you. If the pending prosecution is ultimately resolved by you entering into an agreement to plead guilty to criminal charges, the state agrees to consider whether such full and complete cooperation qualifies as substantial assistance. Right?
Yeah.
Bottom line, by entering into this agreement, you agreed to give a proffer statement, but you also agreed to fully cooperate with the state, correct?
Yes.
And if they feel that what you're doing rises to the level of substantial assistance, that could assist you in getting a better deal, right? Right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Let's shout it out. Yeah, it'll help you get a better deal, right? Yes. Say it. I couldn't hear you. I want to hear you say yes, because that's the truth, right? That you want to get a better deal.
No, that's not what I'm doing it for.
Interesting cross-examination, really interesting. But Haley Bustos, one of the 4 defendants in this case, not a great human being. But at this point, she's looking at the rest of her life in prison. She did some sort of proffer deal, isn't necessarily promised anything. They're going to see how it all sort of works out in the end. But she's testifying for prosecutors. Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter was in the courtroom all day and has more for us from Bartow, Florida.
Vinny, the prosecution's star witness, co-defendant Haley Bustos, took over the courtroom when she entered to give her testimony against Andre Warner. Everyone knew how important her testimony was to the prosecution, and you could feel the heaviness as she walked the jury through a detailed, vivid story about what happened in August of 2016 when she met the victim, Adam Hilaire, on Plenty of Fish. Now, the jury was heedful of what she had to say, but they were also scrutinizing what she had to say, taking vigilant notes throughout her testimony. And she was so soft-spoken and a little bit mumbly at times that we really had to lean in and listen to what she was saying. But the moment that you played where she did respond adamantly to the defense attorney on cross-examination, that was a moment that stood out because it was so different from the tone of the rest of her examination, and you could tell that she meant what she said. It was one of several moments that stood out in her testimony. I know the jury will take with them, but also what happened after she testified was huge inside the courtroom, in the gallery of the courtroom, because as she testified, her mother was there, her family was there, as well as the victim's family, Adam Hilaire, his stepdad, his mom, and relatives. Of course, the defendant's mother was there as well. But after Haley Bustos left the witness stand, her mother returned to the courtroom to hug Adam Hilaire's mother. It was a poignant moment. They embraced, they exchanged words, they held hands, and it was something that I'll carry with me because it was a moment that seemed like a forgiveness and humanity taking place inside the courtroom. Vinny, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Chanley Painter at the courthouse for us down in Bartow, Florida. The question tonight really is, though, will this jury believe Haley Bustos, and does she get prosecutors over the top and put that gun in the defendant's hand? Let's bring back in our think tank. Lara Yeretsian, does this jury believe this woman?
They could, but I mean, she may have a credibility problem, as we could hear during that bit of testimony that we heard. She has been cooperating, and she's got reason to say whatever it takes and whatever the prosecution needs so she can get the deal that she needs. Now, even though there is no agreement, but if she substantially cooperates with the prosecution, we know that at the end of the day, she's going to get a better deal. She's going to do a lot less time than what she's looking at now. So, it's a credibility issue. She does have a reason to possibly lie, but she, at the same time, I have to admit, she didn't hide the fact that she could get a better deal because of her cooperation and her testimony. So it's likely that the jury might believe her, but keeping in mind that they can't believe every single thing that she says. She's here trying to save herself.
Naima, what do you think? I mean, the feds, you're a former federal prosecutor. Feds get cooperating witnesses, I think, in every case. They need at least 5 of them, 3 videotapes and 2 confessions, and then you take it to trial. But how effective do you think this cooperating co-defendant will be?
Well, Vinny, you're a former prosecutor. It's always tough when you're dealing with cooperator or co-defendant testimony, right? They have every reason to lie. And Haley did get dirtied up a bit by the defense attorney. I mean, same with, Josh Ellington, who testified yesterday. They have a reason to lie. They've given inconsistent statements to law enforcement. Those all came out during cross. But I think the state prosecutor did a good job of getting ahead of the bias issue, the proffer issue. During the direct examination of both witnesses, they made it clear that they entered into a proffer agreement, but no promises were made, and that they were here, they were testifying truthfully. And a lot of that good testimony got out during direct, and I think that really blunted the defense's cross-examination in this case.
All right, let's take a listen to Haley Bustos now describing the sequence of this shooting.
Do you remember whether there was a statement made about where he was shot?
Yes.
Tell us about that, and who said that?
Gary said that he shot him in the arm.
When Gary said he shot him in the arm, who was he referring to?
Drew.
So did you think that Adam had only been shot at the arm at that point?
Yes.
Do you remember any other statements that they made at that point? I'm talking specifically about the car ride.
He said they just take anything but just don't kill him.
Did they make any statements about, I'm sorry, go ahead. Did they make any statements about Adam telling them where checks were, things like that?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
He told him that there was checks in the car and just to take anything but just don't take his life.
Did you hear any statements about Adam's throat being cut?
Yes.
When did...
She's continually leading. I would object to leading the question.
Overruled as to that question.
When did you hear that statement?
When we was at the house.
So when you were back at Evelyn's?
Yes.
Who made that statement?
Gary.
What did he say?
That Trey told him to just cut his throat, but he said the knives were too dull.
What did Andre Warner tell you about that?
That he put him on his knees in the kitchen.
And what else did he say?
That he shot him.
Did he tell you why he shot him?
Because he went blind face.
What does that mean?
With no mask.
No mask. So Andre told you that he put Adam on his knees.
Yes.
And shot him.
Yes.
Because he went in blind faced?
Yes.
Did he tell you where he shot him?
No.
Kyle, if he goes in blind face and he's got a gun and he kills people when he goes in blind face, meaning without a mask, he didn't bring a mask. I mean, this is like premeditated. They know when they're leaving Evelyn's apartment to go over there that this is going to be a murder. If you're going blind face.
Absolutely. Like I said in the previous segment, you'll kill. This guy has a history of violent offenses, violent crimes. So the next step is murder, and that's what he did here.
Neama, this is cold-blooded murder. It seems like she put the gun in his hand today. He's the one squeezing the trigger. I think that gets us a lot closer to the death penalty in this one.
Oh, absolutely. The state is going for the needle here. The testimony, I mean, Haley's testimony is very powerful. Not only does Andre go and kill him, he kills him execution style while he's begging not to be killed, and he's talking about his 5-year-old daughter. So the state's looking at the penalty phase here, and I think Haley's testimony today was very powerful on that issue.
Lara, does he have to take the stand to try to save his own life in this one?
I'd be surprised if he took the stand, honestly, especially with the kind of facts that have come out through the testimony that we were just talking about. Just imagine the jury is going to have this image of this father on his knees, begging for his life, begging because he has a daughter that he loves. taken a stand, I'm not really sure what he could do, especially with the rap sheet that he's got. It's a mile long. The guy's been in and out. I'd be surprised if he did. I don't think it's going to help at all.
All right, let's check back in with Chanley Painter for a look ahead at what's in store tomorrow down in Polk County, Florida.